peanut butter by John Crampner, the FDA official who was in charge of arguing the FDA's case, Ben Gutterman, commented that if we had said 83, they'd have gone to 80. They were saying nutritionally it's the same, price-wise it's the same. We were asking, but when does it stop being peanut butter? In the end, the lengthy and extremely expensive battle over what constitutes peanut butter versus peanut spread resulted in shifting views concerning the Food Standards Program in the United States, which in turn spurred on new regulations for food labeling, as well as General Counsel being convened to make sure food regulation practices would not interfere with the creation of new types of food products. As law professor Richard Merrill noted, we concluded that regulation should shift away from controlling food composition and focus on providing consumers with more complete information about foods. And now for some bonus facts. Pringles were originally called Pringles Newfangled Potato Chips. However, Pringles only contained about 42% potato-based content, with most of the rest being from wheat starch and various types of flour, including from corn and rice. Thus, the US Food and Drug Administration made them change the name because their product didn't technically meet the definition of a potato chip. So they were only allowed to use the word chip in very restrictive ways. Specifically, if they wanted to continue to use the word chip, they would have to say Pringles potato chips made from dried potatoes, but they weren't too fond of this requirement, so the company changed the name slightly, using potato crisps rather than potato chips. Today, of course, most people just know them as Pringles. Across the pond, things went a little differently. While Procter & Gamble initially argued that Pringles were in fact chips in the US, in the UK this created a problem. In order to avoid a 17.5% value-added tax, VAT, in the UK, Procter & Gamble stated that Pringles should be considered a cake rather than a crisp. Their argument was that since only 42% of it is made from potato and that it's actually made from dough, therefore it should be considered a cake and not subject to the tax that's put on chips. After all, that's why the US Food and Drug Administration had previously made them change it from being a chip to a crisp. The company initially won in the High Court and were briefly considered a cake in the UK. However, Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs appealed the decision, and in 2009 the ruling was reversed and the company had to start paying the VAT. Little pearls swimming in creamy custard flavored with vanilla or lemon. Many of us have fond and others not so fond childhood memories of tapioca pudding. I don't even know what tapioca pudding is. Tapioca. It's got to be some American thing, right? Although this staple dessert of the 1970s went out of vogue for a while, today it's making a comeback. What you may not know, however, is that the tapioca we use is a refined product whose parent plant is filled with dangerous substances that, absent proper preparation, can result in cyanide poisoning and even possibly death. Cassava, the plant from which tapioca is made, was one of the first domesticated more than 12,000 years ago in South America. Migrating northward, it became a staple crop for people throughout the pre-Columbian Americas. Taken to Africa by the Portuguese, today it is the third largest source of carbohydrates in much of the world, after rice and maize. Hardy and nutritious, cassava, also called yucca, which is distinct from the yucca plant, refers to the shrub as well as the starchy root that is harvested for food. There are different varieties of cassava, but generally they are split into two different classifications: sweet and bitter. Although both are toxic, bitter cassava may have as much as 400 milligrams of cyanogenic glycosides per kilo, making it potentially 8 times more toxic than sweet cassava. Cyanogenic glycosides are present in a startling number of plants that are cultivated for human consumption, and more than 2,000 known plants total. Not inherently toxic, cyanogenic glycosides are transformed within humans and animals after the plant tissue has been macerated, when enzymatic hydrolysis by beta-glucosidase releases hydrogen cyanide. This is a chemical that is very toxic to people. And by the way, cyanide poisoning works by not allowing the body to use oxygen, mainly via inhibiting the cytochrome C oxidase enzyme. This means that the blood remains oxygenated after it passes through your body and comes back to your lungs. Thus, it causes the body to suffocate even though a person is otherwise breathing normally. There are several types of these cyanogenic glycosides, including amygdalin, durin, linamarin, lotistranin, prenarsin, and taxophilin. Not sure if I'm pronouncing those right. I looked them up. Some of them are there, some of them are not. And these are found in pretty common foods, including almonds, sorghum, cassava and lima beans, stone fruits, think peaches, plums, apricots and nectarines, and bamboo shoots. We don't get sick from eating these products because either by the time they reach us, the offending substances have been eliminated, for example, blanched almonds and canned prepared bamboo shoots, or we don't eat the toxic part. For example, the pit of the stone